married, unhappy older woman whose obsession with her young lover grows with every minute. She had spent most of her life in silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the aching, suffocating kind that grew louder inside her chest with each passing day. Her husband, once the man she had dreamed of growing old with, had become nothing more than a stranger who shared the same bed and ignored the same pain. Their conversations were mechanical, their nights cold, and her heart desperate. She hadn't planned to fall in love again, especially not with someone so much younger, so intoxicating, so utterly dangerous to everything she had built. But when he walked into her life with that reckless smile and a gaze that stripped her soul bare, she knew she would never be the same. It started with glances, soft, playful, daring. Then came the accidental touches, the lingering stares. And before she knew it, her lips were pressed against his in the back of a coffee shop, trembling with guilt and desire. He tasted like escape. Each kiss deepened the crack in her carefully curated world. He whispered things to her in the dark, things she hadn't heard in decades. How beautiful her lips looked when she bit them, how her laugh made his blood burn, how he dreamed of her body even in daylight. And she drank every word like wine, growing drunker with every touch. They met in hidden places, behind locked doors. His hands knew her skin better than her own reflection. He touched her with a hunger that made her gasp, made her cry, made her forget the wrinkles on her hands or the years she carried like chains. With him she was reborn, not as a wife or a woman past her prime, but as something wild, desirable, worship. Nights became their sanctuary. He would arrive without a word and pin her against the wall, their mouths colliding in a storm of need. Clothes were forgotten. His breath on her neck made her moan without shame. Her hands clawed down his back as he whispered filthy promises into her ear, and she begged for more again and again. They made love like it was the last time. Every single. And yet it wasn't just about sex. Between the heavy breaths and soaked sheets were moments of aching vulnerability. He stroked her tears away after she cried over the life she had lost, or perhaps never truly had. He kissed the stretch marks on her stomach and called them beautiful. He held her close after every climax and murmured, "You're mine, only mine." But obsession like fire spreads fast. She couldn't stop thinking about him. Every minute felt like agony when he wasn't near. She began ignoring calls from her husband. She skipped lunches with old friends. Her world now revolved around a man who barely belonged in it. But he made her feel alive, something her husband hadn't done in years. The guilt gnawed at her, but the addiction was stronger. She lied. She manipulated. She snuck out at night with trembling hands and came home with bruises on her thighs and lips swollen from kisses. And she wanted more. He called her in the middle of the night just to say he missed her voice. She answered every time, heart-pounding, voice breathless. "I want you," he'd whisper. And she'd whisper back, "I'm already yours." They began meeting for hours, sometimes days. Locked in hotel rooms with curtains drawn and bodies tangled in sweaty sheets. He would talk dirty in her ear while his fingers explored her secrets, and she would scream his name into the pillow. They made love for hours, pausing only to drink water or kiss again. Their pleasure was a language only they understood. But the high came with consequences. Rumors began to stir. People whispered behind her back. Her husband grew colder. One day, he came home reeking of another woman's perfume. He didn't even try to hide it. And she didn't care. Not really. Her heart belonged elsewhere now. Still the cracks began to show. Her young lover had moods. Sometimes he would pull away, ignore her messages, disappear for a day. Tore her apart. She would cry into her pillow, afraid he was growing tired of her. Afraid he'd find someone younger, someone less broken. He always came back. With kisses. With sex that left her shaking. With words that made her whole again. But something had changed. She grew more possessive. More desperate. She checked his phone when he wasn't looking. She followed him once just to be sure. And when she saw him hugging another girl, Even though it looked innocent, her chest tightened like a vice. She went home and cried for hours, naked under the covers, wondering if she was just a phase. Game. The next time they met, she kissed him with tears in her eyes. She demanded his loyalty. He promised it. They had sex against the wall, fast and fierce like animals. And afterward, he held her while she sobbed into his chest. But doubt had planted a seed. She started questioning everything. Why he didn't reply faster. Why he didn't say, "I love you" first. Why he never talked about a future. Still the fire didn't fade. If anything, it burned brighter. She began dressing differently. Wearing red lipstick, lace lingerie. She took selfies in the mirror and sent them to him late at night. His replies were filthy, and they made her blush like a teenager. "Spread those legs for me. I'll be there in 20. And he always came. One night they went wild, pushing boundaries, trying everything. Her moans filled the room as he explored every inch of her, praising her, making her feel like the most desired woman on earth. When he whispered in her ear, "You drive me insane," she whispered back, "Then lose your mind with me." They spent the entire night talking, touching, teasing. There was no sleep, only pleasure. And in the silence of early morning, wrapped in his arms, she whispered, "Promise you'll never leave me." He kissed her forehead and said nothing. She should have noticed the change. Later that week, she saw bruises on his neck, ones she didn't leave. Her heart broke in silence. She confronted him, voice shaking, tears threatening. He denied everything, gaslight her, made her feel crazy. Still that night they made love again. But desperate. She told herself he was hers. She screamed it into the mattress. But the seed of doubt had become a tree, and soon it would fall. She started noticing more signs, too many to ignore now. His late replies turned into full days of silence. His kisses, though still passionate, felt less hungry. The way he held her had changed. Something was missing. A piece of him was already gone. She asked no questions. She was too afraid of the answers. Still she tried harder. Bought expensive perfumes, practiced sexy lines in the mirror, even learned new things to do with her body. Anything to keep his interest. She sent videos that would make any man lose control, whispered fantasies into the night, begged for longer hours, deeper kisses, harder touches. Sometimes it worked. They'd have sex against the mirror while he pulled her hair and made her scream. She would sob afterward, not from pain, but from love so overwhelming it frightened her. And he'd hold her, whispering sweet lies to calm her storm. But the cracks were undeniable now. She heard he was seeing someone else. Another woman, younger, single, available. She confronted him in a dim hotel room, standing naked, shivering from more than just the cold. Her eyes red, her lips trembling. "Are you cheating on me?" she asked, voice hollow. He stared at her for a long time. Then finally, "Does it matter? You're married." Her breath left her chest in one long, shaking exhale. She slapped him. He didn't flinch. He only stepped closer, grabbed her by the waist, and kissed her so roughly it bruised. And she let him. 'Cause she still loved him. They had sex that night with no words. Just skin and sweat and tears. He didn't say he loved her. He didn't look into her eyes. And when he finished, he turned away. She laid there, staring at the ceiling, bleeding from the inside. The next morning he was gone. No note. No text. No goodbye. Days passed. She sent message after message. Voice notes, photos, desperate cries for attention. She wrote long letters she never sent. Her husband noticed she was distant, crying in the shower, staring into nothing. He asked what was wrong once. She laughed bitterly and said, "Nothing you'd understand." Her world unraveled. She visited the places they used to meet, hoping he'd show up. She sat in her car for hours praying, fantasizing that he would run to her, kiss her in the rain, beg her never to leave. But he never came. And then she saw the photo. It was shared on someone else's story, a casual snap of him and the new girl. smiling, holding hands. Free. She zoomed in until the image blurred, hoping it wasn't real. But it was. He had moved on. She broke that night. Cried until she vomited. Screamed into her pillow. Tore the sheets where they used to make love. Looked at herself in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Her makeup smeared. Her chest hollow. Her eyes dead. She stopped eating. Stopped talking. Her body existed, but her soul was missing. Her husband tried to help, but she pushed him away. She didn't want pity. She didn't want lies. She wanted the man who touched her like she was fire, who talked to her like she was the only star in his sky. She wanted obsession. She wanted him. Weeks passed. She finally stopped waiting. But she didn't stop loving. One rainy afternoon she saw him again, by accident. He was walking with his new girl. Laughing. Free. She froze. He didn't notice her. Didn't even glance her way. Like she was invisible. Like she had never mattered. And that broke her in a new way. She went home. Shut every window. Lit candles around the bed they once shared. Wore the same red lingerie he loved. Played their song on loop. Then she pulled out the gift he had once given her. A necklace, small and silver. She placed it around her neck and stared at herself in the mirror, whispering, "You promised you'd never leave." Then she grabbed the envelope. It contained everything. Their pictures, her journal, the hotel receipts, even the lingerie he had bought her once. She sealed it. Wrote only one word on it, remember. She dropped it in the mail. Addressed it to his new girlfriend. That night, her husband came home to find her dressed like a goddess, standing in the dark. For a moment he was speechless. She looked dangerous. "Can we talk?" he asked. She smiled. Yes. They had dinner. She made his favorite dish. They talked about the past. About pain. About cheating. He confessed he had seen someone else too. But it meant nothing, he said. Just a distraction. She leaned forward, whispering, "Do you love me?" He nodded. "Then show me." That night they made love for the first time in years. She moaned his name, touched him like he was new again. But her mind, her body, still ached for the ghost of another. The next morning, her husband held her tightly and whispered, "I still want to fix us." She stared out the window. "It's too late." And then the phone rang. A number she knew by heart. She answered, heart hammering. It was him. "I got your letter," he said. "Why would you do that?" "Because you forgot me," she whispered. He sighed. "I didn't forget. I just had to move on." She chuckled darkly. "Then move far. Because I'm about to destroy everything." He paused. "What do you mean?" "You'll see." She hung up. 3 hours later she posted a video online. Raw, teary-eyed, shaking. She spoke about being used. About being manipulated. About giving everything and being left with nothing. She never said his name, but she didn't need to. The world guessed quickly. His messages exploded. His image shattered. And she became a symbol. Of heartbreak. Of survival. Of revenge wrapped in sorrow. He tried to call. She never answered. He tried to show up. She never opened the door. She wasn't his anymore. The last time she saw him it was from afar. He looked thinner, tired, haunted. Their eyes met for just a second. And in that second, he realized what he had lost. He turned away. Not because she hated him. But because obsession was a cage. And she had finally broken free. She walked into the storm, smiling. Alone. But not empty. She was done crying. The silence inside her was no longer hollow. It was peace. Then,